What if we told you that Life, 1999, the comedy classic starring Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, holds more hidden secrets than you ever imagined? From genuine toe injuries that accidentally made it into iconic scenes to heart-wrenching character deaths that were completely improvised, this movie is packed with behind-the-scenes gems that will forever change the way you watch it. But that's not all. Did you know about the historical music mistake, the mystery of the disappearing door, and a surprising nod to Eddie Murphy's earlier work? These bizarre facts and unseen moments reveal a whole new layer to this cult favorite. Stick around as we unravel 15 strange secrets from Life that have remained hidden for 25 years. Ready to dive in? Let's go. Real injury became comedy gold. One of the most unforgettable scenes in Life occurs when Ray and Claude are forced to stand barefoot on a case of bottles as punishment for Claude's pie-stealing antics. What makes this moment even more remarkable is that Martin Lawrence actually got hurt during filming, and his genuine reaction ended up in the final cut of the film. During the take, Lawrence's toe slipped into the neck of one of the bottles and got stuck. Instead of stopping the scene or breaking character, Lawrence rolled with it, incorporating the mishap into his performance. He even mentions that his toe got stuck in the bottle, a line that wasn't scripted, but was a real-time reaction to the accident. Eddie Murphy's laughter in response to Lawrence's situation wasn't staged either. He found the moment so hilarious that he couldn't hold back, creating one of the most authentic interactions between the two leads. The directors were so taken by this spontaneous chemistry that they decided to keep it in the final film. This behind-the-scenes mishap perfectly captures the collaborative spirit that made Life work. Both actors stayed committed to their characters, even when things went wrong, and their genuine friendship shone through on screen. The bottle scene was meant to highlight how Ray and Claude supported each other through difficult moments. But Lawrence's real injury and Murphy's unfiltered reaction added a level of humanity that elevated the scene. What started as a simple accident during filming became one of the movie's most memorable laughs, proving that sometimes the best comedy comes from unplanned moments that capture real human reactions. Eddie Murphy's only film without multiple characters. Throughout Eddie Murphy's career, he became famous for playing multiple characters in the same film, often showcasing his incredible range by transforming into completely different people through makeup and performance. However, Life stands out as a unique exception to this pattern. Rick Baker, the legendary makeup artist who won 7 Academy Awards for his work, had a long professional relationship with Murphy, including collaborations on films like The Nutty Professor, where Murphy played several members of the Klump family, and Coming to America, where he portrayed multiple characters, including the barbershop customers. But in Life, Baker's role was drastically different from their usual collaborations. Instead of creating entirely new characters for Murphy to inhabit, Baker focused solely on aging Murphy's character, Ray Gibson, over several decades of prison life. The makeup work involved gradually transforming Murphy from a young man in 1932 to an elderly prisoner in the 1990s, requiring subtle changes that reflected the passage of time rather than creating completely new personas. This departure from their usual approach showcased Baker's versatility as an artist. Rather than designing elaborate prosthetics for multiple characters, he focused on crafting a believable aging process that spanned over 60 years of the character's life. The makeup was so convincing that it earned the film an Oscar nomination for Best Makeup, proving that Baker's talents went far beyond creating multiple characters for Murphy to play in a single story. Rick James's limp was real. When Rick James first appears as the intimidating nightclub owner Spanky Johnson in Life, viewers might assume his noticeable limp is just part of his menacing character. However, in reality, that distinct gait wasn't an act at all. The legendary musician had recently undergone hip replacement surgery before filming, and his scenes were shot while he was still in recovery. What audiences saw as Spanky's character trait was actually Rick James dealing with genuine physical discomfort and mobility issues from his recent surgery. This timing created an interesting scenario where James had to perform his role while still healing from a major medical procedure. Despite these challenges, James delivered a memorable performance as the ruthless club owner who sends Ray and Claude on their journey to Mississippi. The filmmakers decided to incorporate James's real limp into the character of Spanky, finding that it added to his intimidating presence without requiring additional backstory or character development. Rather than working around James's condition or delaying filming, the production team chose to use his physical state to enhance the role. This behind-the-scenes detail shows how sometimes reality can enrich a fictional character in ways that scripted traits cannot. James's genuine recovery process added authenticity to Spanky, creating a more believable performance than any choreographed limp could have achieved. Mississippi Prison actually filmed in California. Despite life being set entirely in Mississippi, with characters spending decades at the infamous Parchman State Penitentiary, none of the film's scenes were actually shot in the state where the story is supposed to take place. The entire production was filmed in California, using various locations across the state to create the illusion of a Deep South prison. Filming took place from March to June of 1998, with different California spots standing in for Mississippi's rural settings. In the Los Angeles area, the production made use of locations in Downey and Norwalk, along with extensive shots on the Universal Pictures backlot, which provided the controlled environments needed to build the prison sets and other critical locations. Northern California also played a role, with locations in Sacramento, Brentwood, and Lockhart being used to represent different parts of Mississippi. This variety of California landscapes allowed the team to recreate the visual atmosphere of the South while avoiding the logistical challenges of filming across the country. The decision to film in California was likely driven by practical reasons, including cost, crew availability, and the extensive studio facilities in Hollywood. To convincingly capture the oppressive atmosphere of a 20th-century Mississippi penitentiary, the filmmakers paid special attention to set design, lighting, and cinematography. The choice to film in California shows just how effectively movie magic can transport audiences to a completely different place. The production team's work was so convincing that viewers would never have guessed they were actually looking at California landscapes and studio sets throughout the entire film. Hidden Harlem Nights Easter egg. Eddie Murphy added a clever nod to one of his earlier films during Life's prison fight scene, creating an inside joke that only longtime fans of his work would truly appreciate. When Rye faces off with Goldmouth, the huge prison bully who has been terrorizing other inmates, he delivers a memorable taunt that connects directly to Murphy's 1989 film Harlem Nights. As Rye is clearly losing the fight to the much larger and stronger Goldmouth, he defiantly says, "I know a woman named Della who hits harder than you. This line isn't just random trash talk. It's a specific callback to Harlem Nights, where Murphy's character, Quick, finds himself in a one-sided fight with a tough madam named Della, played by the legendary Della Ree. That fight, like the one with Goldmouth, had Murphy's character on the losing side, drawing a parallel between the two films. The reference works on multiple levels. It highlights Rye's smart-mouthed defiance even while overpowered and allows Murphy to weave in a playful reference to his earlier work. Della Ree, known for her powerful presence both on-screen and on stage, makes the comparison not only humorous, but oddly respectful in the context of Rye's desperate situation. This Easter egg reflects Murphy's ability to connect his various film roles, often adding subtle references that reward dedicated fans who pick up on these hidden layers linking different movies in his career. Accidental future movie reference. In one of life's most intense moments, Ray and Claude are interrogated by police after being framed for a crime they didn't commit. During this scene, Claude delivers a line that would later become eerily prophetic of Martin Lawrence's future career. As Claude and Ray face the possibility of serious criminal charges, Claude nervously asks, "What's the worst that could happen?" This line was simply meant to capture Claude's growing anxiety about their dangerous situation. It's a natural response from someone facing the uncertainty of being falsely accused, especially in the oppressive Jim Crow South. But just 2 years later, in 2001, Martin Lawrence starred in a comedy titled What's the Worst That Could Happen? The film, which also starred Danny DeVito, followed a thief whose ring gets stolen by a wealthy businessman, leading to a series of escalating revenge schemes. This unexpected connection between the two films creates an interesting piece of movie trivia. The line that Claude uses to express his fear in life would later serve as the title of a completely different movie in Lawrence's career. The coincidence is even more intriguing because neither the writers of Life nor Lawrence himself could have predicted the link when the interrogation scene was filmed. It's an accidental connection between two very different projects in Lawrence's career, tied together by a simple, memorable phrase. Historical music mistake in prison. One of the most obvious anachronisms in Life happens during a scene where Claude begins to experience the cultural changes that have occurred while he and Ray were locked away in prison. This moment is meant to emphasize how much time has passed and how different society is now. But the filmmakers made a significant mistake with their choice of music. In the scene, Claude is standing outside a car, waiting for the current warden to pick up the new warden. As he observes the new fashion and cultural trends emerging around him, he hears music playing from a portable stereo carried by a passerby. The song playing is Maxwell's hit, Fortunate. The issue here is that Fortunate wasn't released until 1999. The same year Life hit theaters. This means that the song, which Claude hears in a scene set in the 1970s, wouldn't have been available for another 20 years. The anachronism creates a clear historical inconsistency, as a character from the 70s is listening to music from the late 90s. This mistake stands out, especially to music fans who are familiar with Maxwell's smooth R&B style and the unmistakable sound of the late 90s. The production quality and style of Fortunate make it sound completely out of place in a scene meant to capture the 70s vibe. It's likely that the error happened during post-production, when the editors selected music for the scene. They may have chosen a popular contemporary song without considering its place in the historical timeline, leading to this noticeable oversight. Fake Baby That Fooled No One. One of the most memorable and unintentionally funny scenes in Life occurs when the prison superintendent is shocked to discover that his daughter, May Rose, has given birth to a mixed-race baby. His frantic attempt to identify the father from among the black inmates adds an extra layer of comedy to the scene. What makes this moment even funnier, though, is the obvious fact that the newborn baby is far older than it's supposed to be. In the context of the film, the superintendent is supposed to be examining the baby right after its birth or within the first day of its life, trying to match facial features with potential fathers. However, the baby used in the scene is clearly at least 3 to 5 months old, displaying physical development and motor skills that no real newborn would have. The infant is wide-eyed, alert, holding its head up, and even moving its hands in coordinated motions, all of which are beyond the capabilities of an actual newborn, who typically has limited muscle control and spends most of its time sleeping. This choice is especially obvious in the lineup scene, where the superintendent holds the baby up next to each prisoner, trying to find a resemblance. The infant appears completely comfortable being handled, with none of the fragility or sleepiness that would be expected from a real newborn. The use of an older infant is a common trick in Hollywood due to strict regulations surrounding child labor and the practical difficulties of working with real newborns who can't follow directions or stay awake on command. While this type of substitution happens frequently, it's rarely as noticeable as in this particular scene, where the baby's age discrepancy is hard to ignore. The changing scar, continuity error. In Life, Sheriff Pike, the corrupt lawman who frames Ray and Claude for murder, is marked by a distinctive facial scar. This scar serves as a visual reminder of his violent encounter with card hustler Winston Hancock. However, sharp-eyed viewers will notice that the scar changes in appearance between the beginning and the end of the film, making it one of the most obvious continuity errors. When Pike first appears in the early scenes, set in 1932, the scar runs vertically down his face. This injury results from a confrontation with Winston Hancock, and Pike uses it as motivation for killing Hancock and framing Ray and Claude for the crime. The scar becomes a key element, marking Pike as the villain and linking him to the original crime that affects the entire span of the film's timeline. But by the time Pike reappears near the end of the movie, during the climactic confrontation with the elderly Ray and Claude, the scar has mysteriously changed direction. Now, it appears at an angle, rather than running straight up and down. This continuity error is likely a result of scenes being filmed out of order or different makeup artists working on the same character at different times. Since Life was shot over several months from March to June of 1998, it's likely Pike's scenes were filmed at different points, leading to inconsistencies in how the prosthetic scar was applied. The change is particularly noticeable because the scar is such a defining feature of Pike's appearance, crucial for identifying him as the corrupt sheriff who ruined Ray and Claude's lives decades earlier. Outtakes and ad-libs in final film. Life stands out for its authentic chemistry between Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, with the directors incorporating spontaneous, improvised moments and outtakes directly into the final cut. This decision created some of the film's most memorable and genuine scenes, as the filmmakers recognized that the natural interactions between the two comedic giants often outshone the scripted dialogue. Throughout production, Murphy and Lawrence frequently went off script, adding their own lines and creating a fresh, more organic dynamic. These ad-libbed exchanges were so good that many made it into the final version of the movie. Their real-life friendship and impeccable comedic timing translated into natural banter, which gave their characters' relationship an extra layer of depth and believability. The film's credits even feature a blooper reel, offering an extended peek behind the scenes at the fun and collaborative atmosphere on set. One standout moment in this reel is Murphy's reaction during the pocket watch scene, where he breaks character and delivers an unscripted line that perfectly highlights his comedic wit. These behind-the-scenes moments reveal just how much creative freedom the actors had to experiment and shape their characters. The filmmakers' choice to include both scripted and improvised moments reflects their confidence in Murphy and Lawrence's dynamic. This approach created a relaxed, authentic feeling throughout Life, where viewers can sense the real camaraderie between the leads rather than just seeing two actors deliver lines. The seamless blend of written and unscripted material was key in establishing the believable decades-long friendship that lies at the heart of the film. Fake baby that fooled no one. One of the most comically memorable scenes in Life occurs when the prison superintendent is shocked to discover that his daughter, May Rose, has given birth to a mixed-race baby. In his desperation, he attempts to identify the father among the black inmates. The scene takes an unintentionally humorous turn when it's clear that the newborn baby used in filming is much older than it should be. According to the plot, the superintendent is supposed to be examining the baby immediately after its birth, trying to match facial features with potential fathers. However, the infant on screen is obviously around 3 to 5 months old, displaying motor skills that real newborns simply cannot have. The baby is wide-eyed and alert, holding its head up and moving its hands with coordinated motions, behaviors that newborns don't develop until weeks later. Newborns are typically very limited in their muscle control and spend most of their time sleeping, making them difficult to work with on set. This is why older infants are often used in films as stand-ins for newborn characters. The substitution becomes particularly apparent during the scene where the superintendent holds the baby up to each prisoner's face, searching for resemblances. The infant, unlike a real newborn, appears completely comfortable being handled and moved around, showing none of the fragility or sleepiness typical of a genuine newborn. This kind of age substitution is common in Hollywood due to strict regulations regarding working hours for infants and the challenges of filming with them, as newborns can't follow directions or stay awake on command. However, in this scene, it's so noticeable that it becomes an unintentional source of comedy. Door that opens and closes itself. In one of life's most tense moments, Ray and Claude find themselves confronting the harsh realities of Jim Crow segregation at a whites-only diner in Mississippi. The scene is meant to highlight the difficult and dangerous journey through the segregated South in 1932. However, a small continuity error with a door unintentionally lightens the mood and adds a comedic touch. As Ray and Claude enter the diner, they leave the door wide open behind them. The open door remains visible as they walk toward the counter and start engaging with the hostile waitress, who will soon challenge them about the diner's segregation policies. But when the waitress asks if they noticed the whites-only sign, both men turn around to look at the entrance, only to find that the door has mysteriously closed itself, without anyone touching it. The door's odd behavior doesn't end there. Later, as Ray and Claude prepare to leave after their uncomfortable exchange with the waitress, the door has magically opened itself once again, allowing them to exit without touching it. The door changes positions at least twice in the scene, without any logical explanation or visible intervention. This type of continuity mistake is typically the result of filming scenes out of sequence or combining multiple takes without carefully reviewing background details. While this error creates an unintentional moment of humor, it also highlights how small, unnoticed details can slip through the cracks during the editing process, even in a professionally produced film. What was intended as a serious moment about racial discrimination and the dangers Ray and Claude face in the segregated South is now unintentionally lightened by a magical door. Modern trucks in 1932 scene. One of the most noticeable anachronisms in life occurs early in the film when Ray and Claude are making their way from New York to Mississippi on their ill-fated bootlegging mission. The scene takes place in 1932, right in the middle of the Great Depression and the Prohibition era. But sharp-eyed viewers will spot an unexpected problem: vehicles that didn't exist until several decades later. As Ray and Claude drive through what's supposed to be Depression-era America, modern white trucks from the 1970s and 80s can clearly be seen parked along the side of the road in several shots. These trucks are visible near homes and buildings as the characters pass through, creating a bizarre situation where future vehicles are somehow present in the past. The trucks stand out because their design is distinctly modern, with sleek lines and contemporary features that contrast sharply with the boxy, rounded cars that were typical in the 1930s. These trucks are noticeably out of place against the period-appropriate cars and carefully designed settings the production team created. This kind of mistake is more common than you might think, especially when filming in real-world locations where filmmakers can't control everything. Since Life was shot entirely in California, rather than on controlled studio sets, the production had to work around existing neighborhoods, roads, and buildings where modern cars may have been parked by locals or passers-by. These anachronistic trucks highlight one of the challenges of filming period pieces in modern locations. Despite the best efforts of the production team, even the most careful planning couldn't always prevent modern elements from slipping into the shots. The trucks serve as unintended time machines, pulling viewers out of the 1930s setting and into the future for a brief moment. Movie poster. Completely misleading. The theatrical poster for Life presents a drastically different version of prison life compared to what audiences actually experience in the film, creating false expectations about the tone and the content of the story. The marketing image depicts Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence trapped between two towering, menacing inmates who appear ready to assault or intimidate the smaller newcomers, leading viewers to assume that the film would focus heavily on prison violence and sexual threats. The two imposing figures on the poster are Jangle Leg, played by Bernie Mac, and Goldmouth, played by Michael Taliaferro. However, their depiction in the promotional material is misleading and doesn't reflect their actual roles in the film. Far from being the menacing predators suggested by the poster, these characters are much more nuanced and less threatening. Jangle Leg, despite his intimidating physical appearance in the poster, is actually a polite and gentle man who happens to be gay and is in a loving relationship with another inmate, Biscuit. When he makes a pass at Ray early in the film, he does so with respect and accepts the rejection without aggression, never becoming a threat to either of the main characters. Goldmouth does play more of an antagonist, but he's primarily a prison yard bully, not the violent predator the poster implies. Although he has a physical altercation with Ray, their conflict is resolved quickly, and Goldmouth ultimately forms a friendship with both Ray and Claude, shedding his role as a constant threat. The misleading poster reflects the marketing department's decision to lean into sensational prison movie stereotypes, rather than accurately representing the film's deeper exploration of character development. Life turned out to be a surprisingly heartfelt story of friendship, spanning several decades, that focused far more on human connection than on the violence often associated with prison dramas. In the end, Life proved to be much more than just a prison comedy. It delved into the complexities of friendship, survival, and human connection, challenging the stereotypes the marketing once promised. With unexpected moments of humor, heartache, and authenticity, the film continues to stand the test of time. Now that you've learned some of the weird secrets that made this film so unique, what other hidden details or behind-the-scenes stories would you love to know about Life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more fascinating content about Life and other iconic films from the 90s.